the 1996 season, the British Superbike Championship had a new look about it. New organisation brought in improved regulations, cash-rich sponsors and bigger and better media coverage. 7 months on from the first meeting at Donington Park, it is now most definitely Britain's premier bike racing championship. To borrow a familiar expression, Superbike racing has come home, and so have the crowds. Steve Hislop, the reigning champion, was back to defend his title on a Kawasaki. Despite some brilliant performances, it wasn't going to be his year. Matt Llewellyn signed for the season with Kawasaki, but switched to Ducati at the midway point. Ian Simpson, the 1994 champion, was also on a Ducati, but had a troubled season. Jim Moody started the season as Simpson's teammate, but switched to the improving Suzuki team for the second half of the series. David Jeffries rode the only Honda in the championship and put in some impressive results in the second half of the season. Michael Rutter has impressed everyone this year on his Ducati with some fantastic rides and was rewarded with 4th in the championship. Another Ducati rider, Terry Reimer, has been sporadically awesome this year. 5 wins put him 3rd in the championship at the season's end. After a decade in Grand Prix, Neil Mackenzie was back in Britain on a Yamaha and felt he had a point to prove, along with his teammate James Whittam, the 1991 and 1993 British Superbike champion. Over the winter, Whittam made the most remarkable recovery from cancer and was back fully fit and ready to rock and roll for the championship title.
It's like the final piece of the jigsaw in getting back to my normal life, you know what I mean? For a sort of 7 or 8 months now, it's been a change for me. I haven't been able to do certain things, and I've had to do other certain things that I didn't want to do, you know. I've spent a lot of my time in and out of hospital and this sort of thing, blood tests and bone marrow samples being taken, but this is the final piece in the jigsaw and get back to my normal way of life.
Donington Park played host to the first 2 rounds, and it was Terry Reimer who planted his Old Spice Duke on pole and set the early pace in the championship until a fuel starvation problem robbed him of victory and instead handed the win to Scotsman Neil Mackenzie. This was the start of a 17-race run for Mackenzie, where he would finish no lower than 3rd in every single race. Whittam had a disastrous start to the year when he retired from the first race with a broken gear linkage. Then in race 2, while battling with Mackenzie and unable to shake off the Donington specialist, he pushed just a little bit too hard. Whittam was battered and bruised, but the only thing hurt was his pride, and he'd be back on the pace very soon indeed. All of this left Terry Reimer to take the first of many victories, and it seemed at this point that the Old Spice Ducati man was perfectly capable of taking the championship. The series moved on to Thruxton, where Reimer started the race from the back of the grid. He was about to provide us with what was probably the ride of the season, as he sighed through the field to lead the race going into the last corner of the last lap. But Neil Mackenzie had other ideas. James Whittam slid through to second, but it was Terry Reimer who, against all the odds, took a memorable victory. At this point, Reimer was second to Mackenzie in the championship. Oulton Park and James Whittam's Yamaha looked unstoppable, but so did Terry Reimer's Ducati. They had a race-long duel in the second of the day's 2 races, and it was Reimer who eventually came out on top to take his 3rd win from 6 races. Neil Mackenzie missed the consistency, came in 2nd and 3rd, but it was Whittam who took his first victory of the year in the first race. That was it, the Yorkshireman was back, and in the words of Neil Mackenzie, James Whittam was about to do a bit of winning. James Whitham had just won 9 of the last 12 rounds. 2 races he didn't win, however, were those at Knockhill in Scotland, where the local hero and championship leader Neil Mackenzie, who still hadn't recorded a finish lower than 3rd, decided to do a bit of winning himself. Mackenzie snatched the lead from Whitham in both of the races and recorded a memorable double on home tarmac. With uncharacteristically poor results from the Yamaha duo at the penultimate round at Brands Hatch, it was quite extraordinary that the pair of them would go to the final round dead level on points.
I said at the beginning of the season my main problem was going to be my teammate Jamie, because I know how good the bikes are, I know how good he is, and unfortunately for me he's been gaining a bit of momentum all season. Fight back from cancer and fully fit and on form. I mean, we're both as fast as one another, but made a few better stats than me, and that's what's enabled them to catch up in the championship.
Here we are at Donington Park on the grid. Neil Mackenzie and Jamie Whitham dead level on points going into the final round. Fantastic stuff.
And at the start of the first of the day's 2 races, it was Whitham who got the whole shot and led the charge down to Redgate Corner, with Mackenzie at this stage back in 3rd. But by lap 2, Mackenzie was right up with his championship rival, and at McLean's Corner took the lead from Whitham, who'd opted for a harder compound rear tyre and was starting to pay the price. It seemed he just couldn't get in quick enough lap times. This was evident by lap 11 when ex-Grand Prix rider Sean Emmett came up behind and capitalised on the now difficult handling Yamaha. So Whitham was demoted to 3rd, where he finished, and Mackenzie took his 5th victory of the year. It was all but over for James Whitham going into the final race of the championship. He had to win, with Neil Mackenzie finishing 3rd or lower for Jamie to take the title. And when he did, taking the lead on the penultimate lap from Neil Mackenzie after a fabulous ding-dong scrap. But with a mature ride to take 2nd, Neil Mackenzie became the 1996 Motorcycle News British Superbike champion.
We've had a lot of fun, but it's been serious pressure all year with James and Terry Reimer at one stage pushed me all the way. We went fast, broke lap records all year, and all the way to the end here I was pushed, but fortunately I got it in the bag.